Beautiful.
Hello! Welcome to
It's off
episode
air.
2
It
of the
still says off
Fireplace.
air. Oh, now we're live.
No, we're on. We're on.
In 5, 4, 3, 2. Freddie, hit that.
Hit that blunt.
No, hit.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Fireplace, where we're going to be talking about hot topic issues in a hopefully civilized discussion. We have with us again Alchem, and
Still with you, B.
today we have Joshua.
Hi guys, I'm new.
So,
Wouldn't have known.
If I remember properly, we wanted to open with the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is, again, we're trying to keep it civilized. We're trying to, it's just a conversation.
Josh about to go off.
Oh.
Just let him blow his load.
Oh no!
No. Come now. I am not gonna. And when you consider the fact that it's called the Super Bowl, okay. But yeah, so Fred, you described the Super Bowl, and then me and Jayford can back up with our, as you would call it, hopefully civilized opinion.
Oh,
Exposed.
I'm gonna warn y'all. I do not speak, understand, or watch anything of football. So I'm gonna. Here's my best take: is right. The team that goes by the name of the Patriots has won for what 5 years in a row.
Something of that nature. It's been a blowout.
And I've been seeing people on like Facebook and Twitter posting about how the fact that this football team is doing so well is because of some white supremacy.
Which,
and
I think the climate right now is letting people say that and like have some kind of substantial like meaning behind,
like
because
I don't understand football, but like my bullshit senses were tingling.
What is it?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know what the fuck that is. What's like Duo?
It's oh no, this is a Google Classroom. But yeah,
Google Classroom. Are you having a group called Google Classroom?
No, not
Please.
really. It's Google.
Please, we're live.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so we're live. Okay.
Wait, hi Fred.
Okay.
Hi.
we're all exposed.
You and Renee had a falling out.
Why are we having gossip on the Google Class? on the Google Hangouts?
I love how we're having gossip live. Can we get back on track, please?
Okay. So anyway, the Patriots. Here's the thing about the Patriots. What they are doing is not an unfounded pattern here. We've had other football teams just be completely dominating the Super Bowl scene.
You got to take into account the fact that they're cheating, and that's part of the reason why people have room to say, that they are having some kind of alternate avenue toward victory. Because, like, in this political climate, especially, and the social climate combined with that, people are really likely to just immediately jump the gun and go, well, I don't like what's happening, and they're all white, so white supremacy, done and done. It's
right, and another thing we have to take into account here is yes, the Patriots have come into the Super Bowl, but that does not mean that they have won every Super Bowl. As we know from the legendary 2018 Super Bowl, the Eagles actually took home the gold. And yes, it resulted in rioting. And yes, I found that to be very disappointing as a celebratory action of sports, mind you. However, it does go to show that the Patriots don't automatically win every year. Now, one could make the argument that, the Eagles didn't take some sort of behind-the-doors deal and whatnot, and that could be the reason why. But one would have to imagine that, no, this is more of a far-fetched theory to simply the Patriots are a strong team, but not strong enough every year.
Out of curiosity, what do you mean when you say they're cheating, Jayford?
Because didn't they get caught a while back, like halfway deflating the ball or whatever?
Oh, the deflated ball scandal. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
There was I can't remember what exactly happened, but I think in one of the more recent games, the ref completely flubbed on calling some actual like fouls out or whatever. I'm like Trigger. I don't keep up to date with sports because I just don't have it in me to care about all
Balls.
that. I mean, listen, balls. We're not even gonna go into that. It's not about that.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
It's not about that.
So the Super Bowl
the care that I have for balls is completely separate, and I would appreciate if you kept that to yourself. Those kinds
Fair
of
enough.
comments. They can trigger.
Yeah.
They might
So
trigger
for
me.
the sports one, yeah, like both Akam and Trigger Whistle here, they aren't really, their experience of sports isn't really that high. So that's where I'll make
At
up for this
all.
one. I actually do follow sports to, a formidable degree. It's not the greatest. I'm not a coach myself or anything of that nature. However, I don't need egregious information to understand what's going on here. And what's going on here, unfortunately, is people are starting to get irritated with a monotony with the teams. And we have a very unfortunate chemistry here where the Patriots, which is, yes, an all American football team, and yes, has a lot of white people on the team, by the way,
Hey,
because they are from where again? New England.
Aren't
hey.
all of the football teams all American? Is there anywhere else in the world they play football that I'm unaware of?
Come on,
No,
NFL. Come
yeah.
on. Get with the
Yeah, all
program.
American is like an ideal. It's like a metaphor. It's not, literally all American because yes, all American football teams are, get this, American. But
Whoa! Whoa! Oh my God!
yeah, I know, right? Mind blown,
My
right?
mind.
Okay.
Stop it.
So yeah, Cuban football team. But
God.
the thing about the All American ideal is when you mix it with a really white team like the Patriots, and the fact that it's 2019, we are going to have conjectures about white supremacy. We are going to have conjectures about potentially white power. We're just going to hear these things because people connect the dots and they're going to try and implant their irritances on something. There's got to be a scapegoat. There's got to be a reason for why they're, feeling angry. Because if there's not any good reason, then their anger is justified. And come on, guys, who wants to call themselves out legitimately?
I mean, it's not really about people trying to call themselves out or anything at this point. It's like, again, like the Patriots got caught having their balls deflated. Like, again, no pun, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't,
pun
you
deeply
can't do
intended.
that. Huh?
Pun deeply intended.
I personally didn't, but you can interpret that how you want if that's your prerogative. You know what I'm saying? Like, no judgment here. But listen, like they got caught. It happened, and nobody's doing anything about it. This whole climate with you know equating certain shortcomings of individuals with systematic oppression and systematic bigotry and everything that benefits the people who are on that side of things. To people on the outside, especially with the way the media and everything has been covering, the Kaepernick situation and all that. It's like there's not a lot of heterogeneous thought on the situation, at least mainstream heterogeneous thought or discussion. Kaepernick, either you saw him as, oh wow, he's going up for black rights. Look at him. I feel that man. Like I like him. I think he's doing good. Or you could be the people who are on like the more hard logic side of things and think, well, this isn't the time or place to be doing all that. And then at the same time, you flip that and you have the same, type of dynamic happening with people. You have people on the other side who are going with hard logic saying, they should be disqualified. They shouldn't have this going for them. They shouldn't have that going for them because they cheated, because they did this, because they did that. And then there's other people who just like the team and are just like, shit happens, and they won, and that's it. That's all there is. Like some people are just no cap on that kind of thing, and it's like you're gonna be an individual regardless of what side of the conversation you're on, and it's just hard to talk about what's actually happening without it getting folded into the current political and social climate of either you're on one side and you're for the people who are typically minorities, or you're on the other side and you're a white supremacist and everything that's happening is because of white supremacy. And to be honest, neither side is correct, because that's just how the media and the modern take on daily affairs has engineered people to think, and that's just not how real life works. Especially if you're having a conversation on a nationwide event like football.
Right, and you bring up a really central point there, Jafer, where when you when you have football now as a sport, it ceased to be a sport for a while now, and Kaepernick was one of the trailblazers in this regard because of all the political ideologies that are now stringed with football. I.e., the standing, like kneeling during the pledge, and now we have this white supremacist stuff. It's only natural that the football teams are somewhat a representation of our political climate,
Yeah,
and this is where it gets tricky because football stars are a type of celebrity, and celebrities are sort of representative of us. They're sort of like idols, not completely though, not strictly speaking,
yeah.
but they are
In explicit terms, if you're just going to talk about it factually, again, most of the time when it comes to this kind of thing, whether it's an A-list celebrity who's in the limelight for putting out an album, or making the most historic 3-point shot or whatever from across the court, oh my god, Michael Jordan or whatever, like regardless of whatever the specifics are in the situation, if you're in the spotlight of the public eye, you're gonna have some kind of moral obligation to promote your views, and people are going to take that as they will. And this day and age, people are going to take that as either racial, or some regarding the LGBT community or whatever.
right. And
There's a ton of different ways to interpret anything when it comes to celebrities. And then if you actually look at it from a normal point of view, none of that matters because they're celebrities. They're not. None of their expertise is actually in that situation. That whatever situation people want to bring up, that's just not it. That's my
yeah,
take on it, at least.
yeah, and a common grievance with this is it detracts from the spirit of the sport. And the spirit of sport was
Absolutely,
not by any means supposed to be intended for political use or
absolutely.
social. And that's where again we get the shortcoming of these football players and just all these sports players being idols. And as an idol, you want to sort of mirror, reciprocate what they stand for, what they are. And so naturally, if they believe a particular way and they vocalize that, you want to side with that as well. You want to take stock in that. And so that's where Colin Kaepernick and the kneeling came from. And now we have the Patriots and white supremacy. And that isn't even idolization anymore. That's more about what they represent and whether or not we should abide by it. Because it's been a few years of the Patriots just straight going to the Super Bowl. It's just been them, Patriots versus Broncos, Patriots versus Seattle Seahawks. It was freaking, yeah, Patriots versus Eagles, Patriots versus now it's the Rams. We had Patriots versus, there was one, was it 49ers? I think it was the 49ers, but that wasn't too recent. Yeah, they've been around a lot.
Yeah,
And
I even remember when I was like a kid, I was watching a Super Bowl. Like I haven't watched TV in like years, but when I did, it was usually like with my parents or with uh some other crowd. I didn't really just enjoy watching TV for the sake of it. And when we were watching the Super Bowl together, me and my parents, they were up against the Seahawks, and I was like, "Ooh, I want the Seahawks to win." And they looked at me like I grew a second head or something. And it's just like it's a really for some reason human nature is just really really in tune with sports. Even if you're not like a
mm,
sports head, sometimes if you're in that situation and like the energy's right, you can all of a sudden just be like, oh snap, like this person's on. I want them to win. Like you can be watching MMA, you can be watching WWE, you can be watching NBA, ESPN, whatever the case, NASCAR, whatever. Like it doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. Some interests might lie differently in some situations. It doesn't really matter because on an individual basis, sometimes you're just gonna want to vote for who you want to vote for and be like, I think they're going to win. And then eventually, at the end of the game, somebody's going to win. And that's just how it is. Like, there's no other way for sports to function. And you just get heated. You get into it.
Right, and I think that has to do with an underlying ideal that people are competitive. Anyone who's like taken a bit of like world history and whatnot will know about this, but that's where Confucian ideals were based on, is the idea that people progress with competition. In fact, capitalism has a similar ideology there. And
Yeah,
sports just
definitely.
seems to be the predominant arena of competition for modern society because it's not harmful and because you can put your back to it and there's nothing but just the victory, defeat, and the glory of it. And just as with how Confucians were seen down by Taoists who believe that competition corrupts us, now we're starting to see that competition is from a sports angle is corrupting us, albeit from a political standpoint. Now we're putting too much into it. Now we're starting to become overly aggressive with each other. We're starting to create divisions within our social structure because our sports teams represent different ideals,
Yeah,
because we want to compete.
the what's it called? Like the ratings or whatever. Like I don't know the actual like terms for it, but they're like aren't they at like record lows because of how overly politicized everything is these days?
Yes,
Like
yes.
ESPN especially. I remember they were getting some heat online. I was like on Twitter and stuff, and people were just like, "Can they shut up about politics? I don't want to hear about politics when I'm on ESPN. What's the point of me going to ESPN except for not to hear politics when everything else is politicized?" I don't
Mm,
know, man. I don't know. For me personally, I feel like having a controlled environment where healthy competition is promoted, people know what they're signing up for. You know, people go into football and they deal with concussions. They give themselves concussions multiple times throughout their careers, end up with brain damage, and that's what they want to do. And it's like yeah, you can recognize the risk in that, and you can call it stupid, and you can say this and that, but like the main point isn't to just take that and then go, okay, how can I put politics in this? Because that's just not how sports works. It's a completely different sphere of thought. It's completely different. That's the same. Like again, when you bring up capitalism, it's a totally different situation because when you have capitalism and people want to say, this is related to capitalism, and you're just like, that's a completely different situation, and they just don't want to accept it. That's just a disconnect in how you're interpreting ideas, and it's not about politics at that point. It's just the fact that some people are run by ideology and can't see past their own arguments, and that's just kind of sad. And the fact that that's getting in football is really affecting how people are interpreting things.
yeah, it's socializing our young, and the Patriots having this white supremacy. Now we have to get to one of the crux of the points here is the idea that the Patriots are white supremacists or not. And obviously, as one would imagine, I think we want to debunk that. And it's just not plausible. The Patriots, do they stand for? No, because there are three central reasons why the Patriots standing for white supremacy or just being a part of a white supremacist movement or what have you.
Okay,
It's
no,
just
bet.
it's poppycock. I just have to throw that out there. It
Says the white blonde.
yeah, and
Poppycock.
and the
I'm
first
sorry, I
one.
had to say it.
Good God, all this poppycock all around me. First deflated balls, now poppycock. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Be adults and just accept it. There we go. So the first reason that I present to the table here is just because the Patriots happen to be an all-white and all-American team and they're winning is not because of white supremacy. The fact is they have not stated anything that would go explicitly with white supremacy, so they do not represent it, and their victories are not attributed to any sort of superior sponsorship from them. Rather, it's just that the Patriots were already a long, powerful team. In other words, they don't need support from Ku Klux Klan or what have you. No, they were already strong on their own. They just happen to be white. The second main point is the idea that if they did get up and over the competition, and it is through cheating, and again, I'm not going to debate whether or not they cheated, the deflated ball does not mean some white supremacy. If you guys really want to look at nitpick, the ball is brown. But freaking The
That
deflated
was a dumb joke.
I mean, if you really want to bring, white supremacy or, politicize something, you might want to remember the fact that they literally used to call footballs pigskins. And it's like, I mean, if you really, really, really wanted to do that, you could just, every day just be like, hey, every time a black football player throws the ball, just, oh yeah, he throwing that pigskin like it's nothing. F the police, like you could do that, and then you're gonna have the same type of reaction that we're having, where it's just like, no, because that's just no. I'm sorry, but no, like that's not accurate, and that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's
That makes sense.
It's the same argument if you want to go the other way, and it's like we have an actual situation in that context where you can literally say like football could just be this big elaborate, movement to have people watching, all types of different people sling around a pigskin ball and deflate it and overinflate it, do whatever they want, punch it, whatever. And it's like, F the police. And you could say that if you really wanted to. It wouldn't be right, but you could. And it's like either way, it doesn't really make sense unless you have actual evidence of people saying or doing something that would correlate that to your point. And if you can't do that, then it just doesn't make sense, no matter what your argument is. So that's my take on it, at least. Because if I was like in Black Lives Matter or whatever, I wouldn't be freaking out about, all these white people making money like they have been for however long, because wow, who would have known that a lot of white people would come from New England and get on a football team? New England. Wow.
New England, it's a region. It is a very fundamental part of our nation.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like a lot of people forgot that white people were kind of the ones who started this whole country. And it's like there's a lot of white people here. Like,
They started football.
Well, I mean, it's also like as someone who goes to New England regularly to visit family.
White?
It is.
See, it's not a secret if you literally just look at demographics. I mean, people want to freak out about that.
Like I think I've literally only seen 3 black people in New England while I was visiting.
Yeah.
Like it is overwhelmingly white. So the idea, and it is overwhelmingly wealthy. So the idea that a well-funded football team from New England made out of mostly white people should be an anomaly is ridiculous.
And it's just like, dude, can you just recognize where there's talent and where you might have some ideology that doesn't really go with, what's happening? Like I'm fine with people admitting, I personally don't like white people. And it's like, if you want to say that, then that's fine. That's not me. I don't feel the same way, but you're free to think what you want to think. I don't care if people say that they don't like black people. But it's like, if you're going to use that as fuel without explicitly saying it and then make this argument trying to, defame a team that's like worked hard and everything without actually bringing up their shortcomings, their explicitly documented shortcomings, then that's not an argument. You can't make an argument off of that. I'm sorry, but it's just, logic and reason is like the main thing I'm concerned about. I don't care about your morals. I don't care about your background. I really don't, because at the end of the day, they won. And if you can't actually make an argument and you're going to choose to willfully be blind to the shortcomings that they've had without actually like using that as your argument, then that can't win, because you're going into a sphere of thought that doesn't relate to the environment that you've put yourself in and that you've established around yourself, with your friends, with your family, with whatever, to have a comfortable space of ideological homogeny. And it's just, if that's you, then that's you, and you can stay in your bubble. But if not, then come at me with an actual argument like a normal person, and we can have a discussion. And that's not happening. That's not happening these days.
And this might be an issue here, because you say like a normal person, but the norm seems to be the exact opposite. It seems like we encapsulate ourselves within ideological homogeny, as you would put it, and that's where this football ideal, this football problem transcends the plane of existence that is football. It becomes more of a depiction of how society in of itself seems to support a particular way of thinking where you find whatever ideal you like and you latch onto it. You hold on to that. You defend that effort for the life of you, even if you don't know too much about them. Even if you
Well,
don't know, like,
that's good and fine, you know, to accept that as part of what's going on. But if you want to, you know, go to my comment of like normal, literally, like again, I already mentioned it. The ratings are down. That's the majority of America. Like it's an all American sport. If the majority of America previously had looked forward to the Super Bowl as like an event and everything, and then all of a sudden the majority of the viewers are like not having it, then that's not the normalcy. You know, the conversation talking about white supremacy and everything, that's not normalcy. And there's a difference between a loud minority and consensus among the majority. And if you start to equate that, it's again having two different discussions at the same time.
All right then. now that I've gotten notice that I was pretty much muted during that entire conversation.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, why is his mic muted? Is something wrong? But then the conversation just kept going, so I was
because like I don't do football.
I don't either, but
so like
I don't like
not
the
a conversation
idea.
I needed to be a part of.
Now, moving on to a conversation that you probably want to be a part of. Do you want to bring up the Virginia governor?
I was going to say that now that we've gotten
Speaking of white supremacy,
now that we've gotten Alcom all warmed up,
what's
let's
up, G?
let's trip off all of his sensors and talk about the Virginia governor.
Yeah, listen, I might say some controversial things.
You might say some controversial things, but like, let me explain the situation first. So, like, last week we were talking about how in New York they released a bill basically saying that you can abort a child up until the moment of pregnancy.
Not even that, after the moment of pregnancy. Like, have you looked at it? They've literally have you heard about the situations where like that one time there was this woman, I'm not gonna like name any names or whatever because we're you know up and coming.
Well, the way I read it, I thought it said up until the moment of birth, but the Virginia governor went live on air and proposed a bill that he was working on that would allow people to
legally abort them after birth.
Legally abort them after birth. Like after a child is born, the parents would be taken into a separate room and a discussion would be had about whether or not they would kill the child.
I saw it was on a radio show, right? He was like eerily calm. That was the creepiest thing. I heard about it because I was watching Crowder or Louder with Crowder or whatever, and he did an impression of him, and I thought it was funny. And I was like, let me look into this a little bit. And he was
Louder with Crowder covered this too. But the thing that gets me is that wasn't what made Democrats upset. What made Democrats upset, right, was a yearbook photo from the 1960s that popped up.
It's so
of
ironic
him
because it's the
and a
same
friend
guy
dressed up in blackface and a Klan robe. Like one of them is in blackface and the other one is in a Klan robe.
So either way.
And at first he sat there and said I'm sorry, those were the actions of a younger man. Then he went on and said that that is not him in that photo because he did not remember wearing blackface that time because he's worn blackface several times. One of which he dressed up as Michael Jackson and put on blackface to look like Michael Jackson.
Okay, see, that's the thing about Democrats. Okay, like again, not to brag on Democrats because everybody's valuable. Everybody's political stance has a place in the conversation. Because
like Republicans are fucked up too. I get it.
Yeah, like everybody's jacked. But the thing that I've seen more recent years, specifically from Democrats, is them saying stuff and then saying too much. And it's again, in recent years, the majority of the time, this happens with Democrats. But also, one of the biggest voices of this is Trump, and I just think it's a behavior that's freaking hilarious to me because it makes me cringe so badly when somebody's gonna say something like, "Oh yeah, it wasn't me," I remember the other times that I wore blackface, and this wasn't that time. And I'm just like, wow, you really just had to shoot yourself in the foot twice, didn't you?
Yeah.
You didn't have enough the first time. You had to go in for another round of roulette and shoot off another toe. That's really what you felt that you needed to do in
Hey
this
guys,
moment in
take my
time.
other arm.
Yeah, it's just like, you're free to do that, but you're stupid.
And I love how like all these people are surprised. Like none of us are surprised that
like, we've
a
been through the
Democratic
actual-
governor was caught wearing either blackface or a Klan robe.
Yeah.
We don't know which one.
But either way, it's the same part of... Oh, speaking of blackface, have y'all heard about the Gucci bullshit? Oh my god. Not even just Gucci. Gucci, Prada. There was some other brand. It started with like an M. They had a jacket with a bunch of different like smiley faces with a red mouth. And it's just like, I feel like a lot of this is just them trying to like program us and make us look away from certain things, because like they like, I don't know, I think it's convenient that those just came out right when the governor of Virginia got caught in either blackface or Klan's robe. Either way, both sides of the coin are of the coin relating to, racist BS, at least according to the media and according to me, because again, regardless,
now, I'm about
it's BS,
to commit a cardinal sin to the social justice community, right?
What?
I'm about to commit a cardinal sin to the social justice community.
Ooh,
but I was watching Louder with Crowder.
Gasp. A conservative podcast? Oh my
goodness. I know. No, that's not the cardinal sin.
Oh no.
As our podcast's local black person, do you think it would be worse if the Virginia governor was the one wearing blackface or the one wearing the Klan robe?
Ooh, it's like dying to overdose on heroin versus dying to overdose on like any other drug, dude, or maybe like a pill.
Nah, because I mean, for me, I laugh at either of them. Like, I'm black, okay? I get to laugh at what I want, and personally, I don't really get why people are so butthurt about this still. It's just like, you don't need to get offended. You just need to make moves. And if you want to be offended, then you're oversensitive. Because it's funny, okay? I don't care who you are. Like, if you're in the right context, okay? Like, if you're at those types of parties, you're probably either drunk or high or both, or just having a really good time. It's late. It might be New Year's. It might be Halloween. It might be some kind of event, where it's the norm to be not politically correct. And either way, from the outside, it's going to look bad.
Yeah.
And it's going to look worse when both of them are together. And it's going to look even worse when you get cited as being one of the people in it. And then you go on to say that you've done it multiple times before. And it's just, it's not about which one's worse. It's all fucking horrible. But
okay, fine. Aryan boy, which one is worse?
Huh?
Oof, which one is worse? Well, if I had to take a gander based on the context here, it would have to be the latter. Because yes, blackface is it's considered racist. This is extremely archaic, that blackface. I mean, that has been around since when Mickey Mouse is, in his inception days. But what I gather from this is so yes, just as an official response, the white robe is worse. But what I want to get at here is
official response for white supremacy.
Yeah, he said freaking that was the actions of younger men, and then he went on to say like, oh yeah, this was a profuse number of times, it wasn't more than once. If he had just held on the stance that this was the actions of a younger man, he could have held on that. He could have made his thoughts there.
He could have gotten out of it. He really could have. I was like, when I heard him continue that statement, that's why I just went on that little rant, because I'm just like, why? Why did you feel the need to do that to yourself? Like, what purpose did that serve? What could it have possibly served? There's no merit in it.
Dumb fuckery, that's what it served.
Oh yeah, I've done it multiple times before.
But like, the thing that gets me is he was, like, one of the clips, he was live on air saying that he wouldn't have worn or like he wouldn't have worn blackface with certain clothes because the oil that they use to do that apparently is hard to wash off of your body and apparently hard to wash out of clothes. And he was like, he just looked at the fucking, like he addressed the audience and he was like, you know, like, no, we don't know.
It's like, listen. If I wanted to hear, the defense of rape from Bill Clinton, I wouldn't have the heart to listen, because who wants to hear that? If anybody wanted to hear that, they wouldn't have the gumption to continue to listen to that BS.
Softly raises
because obviously it's coming from a stupid source for that kind of argument. It's like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I only had sex with her against her will. It's completely different. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong across the board. You're wrong. You're just wrong. You're so incorrect in everything that just came out of your mouth. It's not okay. If I heard that, if I heard Bill Clinton continue that statement with that, it would have been over. It would have been completely over. And I don't understand why people are not just, been done with him even before this. Because again, the crazy thing is, this wasn't even the what's it called?
The first time he did something like this?
Not even that. It wasn't even the first crazy offensive thing that he's done in his actual career. It's like, dude, he's literally explaining to you how to kill babies after they've been born. And then you want to get butthurt over him going to a party and dressing up? Like, if you can't grasp the situation as more serious, before all this crap came out, I don't know what your aim is. Like, what moral high ground are you attempting to have if you're not against third trimester abortions, first of all, and then by proxy after birth abortions, or
well, yeah,
infanticide.
Like even people I've met who completely support the idea of abortion, all of the ones I've met so far believe that third trimester is completely wrong, because at that point the child can survive out of the womb.
Exactly.
And have thoughts and feelings.
It's a completely different argument than what abortion usually is,
or
at least was.
Yeah, first and second trimester. Like first trimester is just a cluster of cells. Second trimester, it looks a little more human. And I can understand the argument for those, because technically it doesn't have thoughts or feelings yet.
Yeah, it's just like, if you want to come at it with those kinds of arguments, I can see the merit from your perspective in those arguments, and I can understand where you're coming from. Because again, I'm pretty, centrist on a lot of things. I just have my own individual opinions about,
Yeah, I saw your political compass test. You're basically center.
Yeah, like I'm able to lean any way that I personally, come to some kind of conclusion on. And it's like, if you try to come at me with an argument, and I can understand, they're from this political climate, they have these sets of ideals, and they're making this argument, and they're making all those things apparent to me, I can kind of understand where they're coming from and see what they're trying to say to me. But there's a point where you're being used as a tool by a bigger narrative, and all of a sudden everything flips. And this is that moment. This is literally that moment. It's like, again, I'm not going to let this go. What's happening right now is no better than what Hitler did. Because these people,
that's a strong stance.
Because these people are using their own ideological standpoints to justify ending human life based on their own prerogative. And that's not okay. You don't just get to do that in a civilized society, no matter what the case.
Yeah.
We even frown upon capital punishment for a lot of different cases that, many people, the majority, would, say, yeah, we should probably off him because he's not a benefit to the society. He's a harm. And it's like,
well, yeah, because if the idea is that prison exists to rehabilitate criminals, well, there are some people who are just beyond rehabilitation. And what are we going to do? Keep financially supporting them for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, let's feed them, clothe them, keep them safe for the rest of their lives, and not really keep tabs on them or anything. And if they just so happen to die by another prisoner's hand, then oh well, we're just gonna sweep that under the rug like usual. And it's like that's not no. A lot of people, if they've done an actual what's the word? A crime of a crazy magnitude. They murdered somebody. They raped somebody. They did some unspeakable act of evil. Then a lot of people are going to agree. Instead of wasting finances on the taxpayers' behalf to support this person's life under the eyes of the government, a lot of people are going to be against that. A lot of people are going to be against that. It's just it's statistical, it's not just a moral argument at that point. It's people quantifying their opinion on a large scale. And that's the usual consensus. It's nothing. It's not a secret,
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
People are so just backwards.
Yeah.
So often these days in society.
And it's
so weird.
And I gotta go.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye.
Just saying. We're on air. All right then. Well,
I guess that's on there now. So fun.
Oh well. But then related to that bit, tidbit. The do you remember Kavanaugh? I was kind of hoping Coach would be here to talk about this one. So you remember all of that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the person who in Virginia who is next to be the governor, suddenly, all sudden, now that he's going to get this big promotion to governor, there are these stories coming out about sexual harassment.
Oh my god.
And no, this is great. The publication that published it hasn't published it for years because it was uncorroborated and unprovable. And it's the same publication that
went after Kavanaugh.
Among the first to go after Kavanaugh.
Oh, no. Who would have known? I feel like I've heard this.
You probably have. And then what makes it better is the legal team that is prosecuting him is the same legal team that prosecuted Kavanaugh.
Yep, I heard about this.
And then what I think is going to be interesting here, right, is because we've been shifted into a position where if you think about it this way, we will be shifted into a position where everything about the Kavanaugh case is going to be flipped. And we're going to see how many people supported Kavanaugh because he was a Republican and how many people actually hold to the belief that unverifiable stories of sexual misconduct from decades ago should not be given any legal credence, especially if there's no evidence that it happened, if it's just by word of mouth, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand.
That's what I believe. And so I fully support this person. Even though there's a lot of people on the same political aisle as me who are like, oh, there's an uncorroborated story of sexual assault, we should get rid of him. They're the same people who are saying that an unverifiable claim of sexual misconduct against Kavanaugh was illegitimate.
Exactly.
And I'm the one sitting here I give him my full support because there's absolutely no evidence this happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm like, listen, dude, if you want to go the route of, moral high ground saying, well, to make sure that the Constitution is being upheld, we need to give this person due process. There wasn't any corroborative evidence. What's her name? Who was
Christine Blasey Ford?
Yeah, Ford.
Yeah.
Her story is riveting, and I feel for her. My heart goes out to her. But
the story itself from her was wildly inconsistent.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like from that kind of standpoint, if you are trying hard to be on her side, you're gonna feel for her, and it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, rape is bad. We get it,
No
but you
shit.
can't just go in and say, you know, he tried to rape me or he raped me or whatever the situation is. With it's not
Yeah.
even about her. It's about any case that you have that you try to substantiate legally and take somebody down. It needs to be, you have to be able to back it. And it's like,
You need
it's not about
physical proof.
politics at that point anymore. It's about due process of an individual sovereign citizen of the United States. And it's like, if we can't come to an agreement on that, at least, then you got some ideological inconsistencies happening, and you need to check yourself, because once you start getting into that kind of sphere of thought, it gets slippery, because you can start sliding into a lot of different you know thought processes that you wouldn't really um think that you could get into, as in your own person.
Yeah. And the fact that this case has, like, it's not a lot of things that tend to upset me, right? Like, radical feminism needs to understand the difference between a fair and just trial and mob rule.
Yeah.
And, like, the idea that we don't live in a society, or the idea that we live in a society where men have this privilege to abuse women, is absolutely ridiculous to me.
I was just bringing that up to
Because,
my
like,
uncle the other day, but continue.
yeah, like, there's this idea that keeps resurfacing. Like, every time we kill it, it rises back from the fucking dead, of this idea of rape culture, and the idea that, like, I've had it literally explained to me that the United States is a culture that encourages that kind of behavior. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how
I'm just
can you
like,
say
what?
that? Like, how can you say that when we live in a society where the merest hint that you may have done something slightly off color decades ago brings you under intense legal scrutiny? Like,
Like, if you want to look at an actual rape culture, you might want to look at the cultures that you're trying to assimilate unsuccessfully into this country, and look
yeah,
at the way that they've impacted other countries that have gone the wrong route and didn't actually integrate them, instead of just letting them try to come in and then assimilate the country that is supporting them. And it's just
yeah,
like,
like all kinds
if
of
you would
European
look at,
nations.
like, Sweden is on track to be a third world country by 2030. Like,
Yeah,
if you can't get that shit through your head, I don't know what will. Because we have actual cultures, actual nations overrun by legitimate, basically sex cult behavior, under the false pretense of being, religious ideology.
yeah.
And
And, like, in
it's
England,
horrible.
like, there's a bunch of people. I don't mean to get too far off, keel here, but, like, in
It's a
England,
conversation. Just let it
there are
go.
actual, like, ghettos of refugees
Yeah.
where the police will not enter.
Yeah, they're a no-go zone.
They're that likely to get killed
It's
if
not
they
even
go
about
there.
them. It's not even about them getting killed. At
And
least
those
at first,
areas are
in the beginnings, they wouldn't go because they were afraid of being under public scrutiny for what's it called? Like,
racism.
yeah, basically, not even that, but like just
Well,
like all
Islamophobia.
all kind, yeah, Islamophobia. There we go. I was trying to figure it out. Just
Yeah,
being prejudiced in certain situations is such a risk for people, and it's crazy because they don't even see that they're defending rape culture in doing so. And then they want to turn
yeah,
the tables and say, oh, well, this is a rape culture and we need to overthrow the patriarchy. It's like, you're literally bringing in entire hunks of society, of a society that is basically run unanimously by a modular patriarchal system. You could have families come together, and then, the two patriarchs and then the rest of the males will go around gang raping women and children. And it's like, are you that blind? Are you that dense? Are you really? Because if you are, I worry for you.
All right, and then I have the third and final piece of this Virginia story that's gonna trip you the fuck up.
Wait, it's back to Virginia?
Yeah, back to Virginia, because there's 3 parts to this story. I already told you
my
the first 2
God.
parts. So the
Okay.
third part of this story.
Hit me.
Finally, someone who's not being charged with the scandal, right?
Uh-huh.
The person who's the runner-up of the runner-up is a Republican.
Ooh.
And the runner-up of the runner-up, so basically, the governor...
Yeah, I said ooh.
Yeah, if he gets gone, this next person gets in, and he has a sexual assault allegation against him. So then if he gets gone, this Republican's in charge of the state. And guess what?
What?
All of a sudden, like, there's no word. Like, nobody's talking about the controversy. All of a sudden, like, it's gone and acting like everything's fine and nothing ever happened.
I'm confused now. So, like, everybody's trying to hush on the 2 Democrats who are getting, you know...
Because they don't want a Republican in charge of the state.
So fucked! Ah! I hate it. I'm done. Goodbye. I'm not living here anymore. I'm tired. I'm gonna go find an island. It's mine now. Nobody gets to come. It's no government over here. Thank you. Goodbye. I'm done. I'm tired of it. I'm over it.
Obviously, I can't say as a factual statement that that's what's happening, but, like, it's pretty obvious that that's what's happening.
Yeah, like, anybody who's, like, looking at it from at least a slightly middle ground or any kind of centrist, you know, vantage point, whether you're on the left or the right, you can...
Anyone
not that hard.
Looking at this from the ideal... Anyone who's not looking at this from the position of a rabid ideologue looks at this and says, Democrat 1 was caught wearing blackface and there's a massive controversy and everyone's talking about it. Democrat 2, who would take Democrat 1's place, suddenly has decades-old sexual allegation charges against them.
Which is the same situation that they tried to put Kavanaugh through.
Yeah.
So we're gonna expect a lot of heat on them.
Yeah. And then Republican 1, who, if both of these 2 people get kicked out of office, he's going to take leadership, and suddenly there's radio silence.
Yeah, but the
it hasn't been
already out there.
It hasn't
been on the internet, so nobody's really able to have that, you know, as a fact that they can take solace in. It's like,
yeah,
you lost the fight already, man. You lost it. You did it to you shot yourself in the foot. How many times now? It's over.
And then, because it's just like, it doesn't take a smart person to look at this and see what's going on.
Yeah, you don't have to be well versed in politics to get this. Like, it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt, and it's been a witch hunt. And as soon as that table gets turned on them, they're like, oh, let me back up. Let me not say anything for a minute. Let me just let cards go how they will. It's like, we already laid them down, man. You already laid your hand out. You can't just back away now.
Yeah, like, we're playing poker and you already put your hand down and it's terrible, and now you want to hide it.
You fold. Like, that's not how the shit works. Like,
yeah,
you are now under your own bluff, or you're under the you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta deal with what you did, and it's like, it didn't work out for you. Sorry, not sorry, but
and like, the happenings of this is like, when you have a situation like this where clearly Democrats are not following their own moral guides, right? They're not following their own moral rules that they try to impose on everyone else.
Yeah.
And like, people always ask me why I hate Democrats so much. And this is one of the reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of Republicans. People think I love Republicans, but I don't. But I respect Republicans because, unlike Democrats, when Republicans say that people should live by a certain moral code, they follow that moral code.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're as a Republican
Democrats have
most of
the
the time.
concept of rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the Democrat narrative. Instead of being an actual, I don't feel like people really understand, like, when they talk about these labels, like what Republican means and what Democrat means and what that usually entails as it goes, in the in the context of moral content and ideological leanings and everything. It's like Republicans are usually really hardcore constitutionalists.
Yeah.
They see a rule, they propose a rule, whatever the case, they abide by it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, and if they don't, a lot of the times the other Republicans will jump on them and take them down. It's like I don't see that in the Democrat sphere, like everybody all of a sudden wants to, act like they're in the moral right when all this stuff comes up. And then as soon as a Republican comes, they're all hush. And it's like, as a Democrat, you're usually, you're for the people. You want the people to have a voice. You want the consensus of the people to have impact on the affairs of the government and what the government is doing to.
Which, by the way, is absolute bullshit, because no modern party proposes more restrictions on the
than Democrats.
Individual than Democrats.
That's what I'm saying.
Not just talking about
the label of Democrat.
I'm not talking about Democrats just restricting gun rights and shit like that. Like, the number of free speech regulations that have come out of Democrats is mind-boggling.
Exactly.
The number of Democrats who think that the market needs to be more regulated is dumbfounding.
And then they all want to blame capitalism for stuff, and it's just like, listen, when you let your own morals guide how you're going to interpret any system, any situation, then you're what am I trying to say? You're like cutting your own feet off in a race. Like right before, you're just like, well, since all these people seem to be a little fatter than me in my mind, I might just, amputate myself for no good reason. And then you're going in it, and then you want everybody else to pity you when they start running faster than you. It's just like, it's not our fault if you choose to handicap your own take on the situation.
I love that metaphor so much.
You can't just do that to yourself and then claim pity. It's like, you're not in that actual situation. You don't get to claim that. You did it to yourself, and you're interpreting everything around you in this, grand scheme of everyone's conspiring against me because I thought that I could make myself more even with them, and I thought I was getting down on their level. It's just like, that's just wrong. That's, again, like, when you start doing that stuff, you back yourself into a corner where when you approach a conversation, you're just gonna be wrong. And that's a lot of where the tension comes from between Republicans and Democrats, because Democrats think that they're on this moral high ground, and they think that they're right, and they think this and that about themselves and their party, when they don't really understand what's happening or how the name of that party reflects the real values and the real laws and everything that they've proposed to the American public. And if you are a Republican, you're really constitutionally conservative most of the time. You're really set in the mentality of, well, there are these agreed upon rules, and if you look at it from a logical standpoint, they make sense, and they allow for maximal freedom of the individuals who have to abide by this system. And if you're on the Democrat side, the value in a Democratic Party, for me, that I see, is the fact that a lot of the time they're really hard left leaning when it comes to that, and they look to see how they can incorporate morality into law and make sure that the logic of Republicans and stuff doesn't go unhinged and start impacting people negatively and constraining them. So there has to be a balance. There has to be a good balance. And as of the past, basically, decade, we've had Democrats basically running office. We've had Obama making all the situations with, the press and the media worse. because he was unconstitutional with that. He went with the lies that all those Middle Eastern countries and everything were, conspiring and had these weapons of mass destruction. That's how the war started in the first place, or at least got to the magnitude it's at now, because we were all under the impression that Obama was doing this great thing and taking them down before they could take us down. And they didn't even have the weapons. They didn't even have them. He just used that as a proxy for him to be able to not be at the butt of public scrutiny when it came to overstepping his limits. And then on top of all that,
exact same thing as his it's exactly the reason why the press is in like Obama and the Democrats' pockets.
Yeah,
Obama made a law saying or legalizing the use of propaganda on the American people.
Yes.
Now, the quotation of it, the fine print says, "Oh, as long as it's used to counter foreign propaganda," but like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Exactly. You can literally just say that there's foreign propaganda and no one can know about it, but we'll just be like, "Oh yeah, oh you're right," and then fucking listen to it. And it's just like, what? You are controlling the narrative, and once you do that, you're imposing your morality on other people as if you are taking the objective moral high ground. And morals don't abide by objective reality. That's an individual thing. It's a subjective concept. You can't just do that as the commander-in-chief. Your job as commander-in-chief is to fucking do your job. You're supposed to establish proper borders. You're supposed to defend your country. And you're supposed to look out for your people. And he didn't do that. He went his own route. He had his ideas.
He
we
bombed his own people.
Honestly,
like
dude.
There were drone strikes. Like I love how quickly the media covered up the fact that there were drone strikes against the American people carried out by Obama. I cannot fathom how quickly
cutting your own foot off. It's all the same shit when it comes to a lot of hardcore Democrats, and it's just like listen, I don't care if you're a Democrat.
That got swept under the rug like it was nothing.
Yeah,
people wonder why.
I don't care if you're a Democrat just because you're a Democrat. I care if you are a Democrat and you're allowing yourself to be complicit in all the bullshit that a lot of the majority of the Democrat platform is promoting. Like, going back to the abortion thing, like this, third trimester afterbirth abortion shit isn't on the radical side, okay? Like, the majority of abortions that happen are on healthy women who can allow that life to continue. And then if it's really that much of a situation to where, like, I don't want to give birth, I don't want to deal with the pain, I don't want to, whatever the fuck the situation is, dude, you can get a C-section. And there's no reason to bypass that. I'm a C-section baby, okay? I flipped last minute. I was a late baby, and I flipped. They had to cut me out of my mom. It's like, you don't see a baby flip and just be like, oh, well, shit, I guess we got to kill it. Like, what the fuck? No. And that's the majority of the Democratic platform saying we should kill third trimester babies and babies that have been born already if it inconveniences the mother. Like, what happened to foster care? What happened with trying to fix foster care? What happened with C-sections? Again, going back to C-sections. What happened to all these other routes of, solutions that would, keep the mother alive and everything? Like, if we can have a doctor literally remove a baby and take its tumor out and then put it back in the womb for it to grow, I think we can actually, come to a consensus on how to figure out the situation when it comes to unborn babies. Because I don't know. You talk. I'm getting flustered.
Well, since we have past the point where we have a half hour left, I want to bring up the big hitting topic. Even though we spent a lot of time talking about the Virginia governor. And that is the big event of the last week. State of the Union address.
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. That shit was hilarious, to be honest. I didn't have the patience to watch the whole thing. I just looked
you didn't?
I basically just looked at a few highlights, looked at him talking about, what was it? Some like a Holocaust survivor, right?
Yeah.
I heard about Trump talking about that. I heard that situation where he was listing off all the accomplishments and everything, and then finally, when it came to an area where the Democrats couldn't not applaud when they were trying to be stoic the whole time, it's, oh, the most women in Congress. Oh, who would have known?
No, they clapped for that. They clapped for themselves, but they didn't clap for a whole bunch of other shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Which,
who
by the
would have
way,
known that they would have done that? It's like, no shit.
By the way,
you're gonna
got fact check, and what I find ridiculous is that even though a lot of it Trump exaggerated, all of the numbers that were fact checked, like the fact checking people listed the actual numbers of growth that Trump reported, and they're still better than they've ever been.
Exactly. I literally, dude, I was talking about this last night. So I'm in this nonprofit youth outreach that I'm like part of, and we're growing right now. I don't know if you're interested, but regardless, we were there last night, and we were doing this Black History Month thing, which I'm already over because I fucking hate Black History Month. But regardless, we were supposed to bring some interesting fact about Black history, and I brought up the fact that we're at record lows in the Black community for unemployment, and I'm just like, all of a sudden, it's a contentious topic, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm happy about my people being actual independent thinkers and working and doing their thing every day instead of just sucking at the teat of the government. And it's just like, why can't I be proud of that? Why is that a contentious topic? Because as soon as I said that, people were like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's not right. I don't believe that. It's like, why? I didn't even have to mention Trump. I think they just knew that it happened recently, and they were just like, well, since it happened recently, like it's not true probably because it has to do with Trump. And they were just like, even before they brought that point up, guess what they tried first?
What?
They tried saying that it was because of Obama or something, and I'm just like, this was updated after 2018. After 2018 rolled around, I highly doubt that it was because of Obama.
And like, I completely understand that, because like one of the big things, I'm gonna be talking about the high school we went to. One of the teachers, you know exactly who I'm talking about, because he teaches the government class, like the AP government class. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like he told us in class one day after Trump got, well, it wasn't right after Trump got elected, but he sat there and he's like, "Oh well, Trump can't be responsible for the massive success that the economy is seeing."
Yeah.
Because it takes about 6 years. He said 6 years. It takes about 6 years for a president to have an effect on the economy.
No, it takes 6 years for a president to have an effect on the economy.
Anything
and bullshit at their job.
Like, literally, he said anything the president does won't affect the economy until 6 years passes.
That's so retarded. Oh my god.
No. And then this is the fucking great part, is that like...
Oh, it gets better?
It gets better.
Yeah, I wasn't in the same class as this dude.
3 weeks.
We went to the same school, but we
3 weeks later.
Completely different grade. Three weeks later, yeah.
I shit you not. 3 weeks later, he rolls into class because there's just an economic downturn.
What?
Like the economy took a sharp nosedive down.
And was he like, oh, it's because of Trump. Trump fucked it up.
Like,
Trump fucked it all up.
You cannot write a parody of this shit.
Is that what you're gonna say he said?
No, he literally said it was Trump's fault that the economy took a nosedive down.
3 weeks.
3 weeks after saying it takes 6 years.
Oh my god.
Change it.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's again. Like,
and what's funny is that all the rest of the kids in the class fucking ate that shit up.
Exactly. Oh my god, that's crazy. I knew that you were gonna say that because like, again, when it comes to Democrats and stuff, I don't care if you're a Democrat for being a Democrat. But the shit that the Democrats have been doing, they infiltrated the education system. They made that shit go full circle, and now we're a snake eating its own tail when it comes to the education system. And all these kids are so brainwashed into listening to their teachers. Nobody wants to ask questions. No one wants to assert their own intellectual, you know, substance into the conversation, or not assert, insert. And it's just like I don't understand how like easy it is for people to just accept everything. I question everything. Ever since I was a kid, I've always questioned authority. It's not because I'm just some rebel. It's because I just in my heart know that authority isn't just absolute. You can't just have authority and just completely obey it for no reason other than you should obey it. Like if you're gonna obey a law or something, like I would hope that you have a basic understanding of why that law is in place.
Well, I think
you have that in your heart, you know.
I think that the way the modern society thinks about authority is actually linked a lot to the education system.
Absolutely.
And I actually have this like semi-memorized.
Ooh, go for it. Go.
Basically, around the until like the early 70s, late 60s, that time period, it was generally accepted that you would send your child to a private school. Public education was only seen as an option for those who could not afford private schooling. Around the late 60s, early 70s, it got normalized for everyone to go to public school. And
after that, it got turned into a compulsory thing.
Well, no, you can still go to a private school,
but you have to be in school.
Yeah, you have to be in the school.
And but ever since private school, it's a compulsory thing to go to a public school. Otherwise, the law is going to get involved. That's what I'm saying. I'm totally agreeing with you right now.
But statistically, ever since then, right?
Literacy
has dropped. Our ability to do math has dropped. The average knowledge of science that the typical individual has dropped. Knowledge of history has dropped. Understanding of the world around you has dropped. The number of languages each citizen speaks has dropped. Economic literacy has dropped. But you know it's risen by almost 180%.
SATs, I don't know.
No. What's risen by almost 180% is the amount of people who believe the government should have complete authority over people's lives.
180? Holy shit. That's crazy.
Just 80% since the 90s.
Whoa. Wait. 90s?
30 years ago.
So about 30 years ago, and then not 20 after that.
But
damn.
When you consider that with the fact that in the 90s there was this massive movement of people saying question all authority, the fact that the 30 years, because it was like 1960s to 1990s, you had 100% growth in the number of people who thought government should be in charge. Then in the 90s, you had an entire generation of people who grew up thinking all authority should be questioned. You had about a whole decade of that. And the percentage of people has grown by 80% since then. That's fucking whack. Like, that's radical.
That's whack as hell. That's crazy.
That's whack as fucking shit.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. You don't know how to cuss.
I know. I don't know. But like, that is insane.
No,
that like ever since the public education system became normalized, the American public, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that ever since public education was normalized on a national scale, the American people have become stupider and more willing to accept authority.
Yeah, it's not
this isn't even
stupidity. It's about dumbing us down in a way that will leave us blind to a lot of other stuff, like fluoridation of the water, like atrazine turning a lot of different individuals
And
are
another
naturally
thing is that
homosexual
whenever I
instead of
cite
allowing that
this,
to be a typical, anomaly in nature. A lot of things are happening around us that's programming us to be more complacent, and it's all kind of compounded into the same effort, And guess what? It's all coming from the government. And lo
no,
and
you know what the
behold,
ridiculous thing is that people will, whenever I cite that source, obviously people when I cite that are going to tell me, oh, you're just being crazy. That's not actually a statistic. The government itself lists those statistics on their educational platforms
exactly
on a national level. If I were a conspiracy theorist, I would think it was worse.
Huh?
If I were a conspiracy kind of person, I would think it was worse because the numbers what I listed off
are facts.
What the government has admitted.
Exactly. And again, going like what I just said, people don't want to accept anything when it comes to abortion. And another thing too, this is kind of off topic, but remember, was it the Woolsey fires? Was it the Woolsey fires? I can't remember. It was up in LA and everything. There were all the media and everything was covering, oh, the giraffe. Is the giraffe okay? Oh,
fuck.
Okay. Is Kim Kanye's cat okay? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Dude, has nobody talked about the fact that what was it? The campfire, the one that was happening right before that, was way, 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 way worse. And then on top of that, there's also the fact that government established areas, taped off basically because of toxic waste, radioactive substances, all lit up, all got lit up. All that shit was in the air. And even before that, the statistics regarding cancer development was way higher in people living nearby that area than the majority of the nation. The national average is, oh shit, I can't remember the number. It was substantially lower than that area. Because like nobody wants to actually talk facts and accept facts. And it's like, if we're at a stage where nothing's going to be factual, that leaves a lot of room for everything to get politicized and for people to not have legitimate conversations on contentious issues.
It's mostly because, if you think about it, a population that doesn't know that its rights are actively being taken away from it cannot revolt.
Exactly. And then people want to revolt against the people who are trying to raise awareness about this. And it's just like, at that point, you really know that some shit's going down because people don't even want to hear the potential unless it's their specific narrative. But,
Yeah.
News alert, news flash, like you're part of that. You're part of that narrative. You're part of the reason why shit is the way it is.
And then kind of taking a sharp turn back on course about the State of the Union. What did you think about the fact that like all of the new Democratic women who got elected decided to show solidarity to each other and all showed up wearing white?
I thought it was a really, really nice adaptation of the Klan hood. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was modern. I thought it was pristine.
How did I know you would say that?
No, but for real, I don't even fucking know how to feel at this point because honestly, listen. The Golden Globes had fucking pedophile signaling and shit.
Like if it wasn't,
they are wearing all white. Like listen, you can call me conspiracy theorist. You can call everybody out there saying what I'm saying a conspiracy theorist. But you know what? I mean, I'm looking at shit through my eyes, and that's how I see it. And I think, all in all, I don't really care what's happening just because I'm either gonna.
The thing that I think was kind of like terrifying is if you looked in the back, Nancy Pelosi only applauded for a few things, and all the Democratic women who got recently elected, all the ones wearing white, basically only applauded when Nancy Pelosi did, which is like...
That's creepy. That's really creepy.
It's kind of creepy because, like, I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but it seems like Nancy Pelosi is like...
It's like she's their handler.
Controlling them.
It's like she's their handler.
She's telling them what to do, which is like it brings up kind of the scary thought of whether or not they're actually independent politicians or if they're just in the handle basket of Nancy Pelosi.
That's what I've been thinking this whole time, to be honest. Like, that's what I've been getting, like, leading up to, like, in my own just internal everyday interpretation of, like, something pops up on the news or some story comes up on YouTube, and I'm, like, you know, looking at a bunch of different sources trying to figure shit out for myself, and I'm just like, the longer the shit goes on, the more it seems likely that she's basically just their handler at this point. Like, somebody appointed her and everybody just decided to start looking to her for guidance on how to behave and everything. And it's just like, people have been coming out and talking about, you know, even with Ocasio-Cortez, how her, like, a assistant or accountant or whatever the fuck is her handler. And people are, like, having all these theories about, you know, her getting her ideas from some other person, and that's why she's so just, like, all over the place, because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. And it's pretty obvious that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, she's young, she's dumb, she doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to economics.
Well, it's not just that she's young. If you listen to her talk, she obviously has no understanding of the actual.
It's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the young thing isn't even just about her age, because like she's relatively young for being, you know, in a seat, but
because, like, I think we would both agree that we're younger than her, but it almost seems like we have a higher understanding than she does.
Yeah, because, dude, up until this point, it wasn't a topic that you would have to explain when it came to marginal tax brackets. Like, that's pretty. I've understood that since I was like 8. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not as stupid as you think. And if you think that I'm that stupid, then I need to worry about you as a congresswoman or whatever the fuck she is. Because, like, if that's how you view your public, if you think that they really need that level of explanation, when you get to the tippy tops, if you really feel like you need to explain it like that, I feel like you don't really have a grasp on the American public's you know, understanding of economics. I don't think you personally have a proper grasp on economics if you think that people need an explanation like that. We want facts. We want actual substantial arguments to back your propositions of how we should be going about economics. Because as far as I can tell, this shit sounds like legit socialism. It's not democratic socialism, it's socialism. It's the same argument that they use in Venezuela. It's the same argument they use in Cuba, and they're shitholes.
Yeah, like, objectively, and I find it hilarious that people find excuses for these countries being terrible places to live, but it's a reoccurring pattern that anywhere that experiences any form of socialism, the standard of living, well, it like basic levels of socialism, your economy stagnates.
Exactly. Even in like Scandinavian countries.
No, I mean, like, even in America, we introduced socialism, like micro-socialism. And I'm sitting here, and the economy, since we adopted that basic level of socialism, has stagnated. Like, people wonder why the economy isn't getting any better.
It's like we're not letting ourselves. Socialism is like.
And then in any countries where they actually go full socialist, their economies crash, their people are starving.
And that's the crazy thing is that people want to continue to go for socialism when Bernie himself was the fucking insane guy to go, oh, it's great that people are lining up in lines, you know, dedicated just for food and stuff. That's great. Socialism's doing its job. It's like, exactly. We don't want that shit here. It's doing its job. It's a fucking horrible job. That's what socialism does. It destroys things. It's like, if you really want to hurt your people, and you really want to make them think that they're benefiting the people around them, you're gonna go for a moral stance. Okay, you're gonna say, okay, you have an apple tree or you have an orchard or whatever, and all your neighbors around this state, you know, don't grow apples themselves. And so you're selling your apples, the ones that you put your time and effort into all day, every day, at a fair price. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's an exchange of alienated labor.
Well, what I think is interesting is that socialists always want to talk about how, you know, what is their saying? To each according to their needs, from each according to their ability. I think is how it is, and it's basically like, oh yeah, everyone puts in what they can, and then they get what they need. Like,
that's the same thing as capitalism, except when you
realize how capitalist that shit is.
Huh?
Like, I don't think they realize how capitalist that is.
Yeah, because if you are a capitalist, you're gonna say that, and then you're gonna say, and then also, just so you know, nobody's overseeing all this and dictating how it works. People do that among themselves, and that's how a civilized society works. And again, going back to my Apple thing, if you're gonna sell your apples to people at a fair price, to the people who figure out, you know, that this guy sells apples and they're some damn good apples, you're gonna go to that guy for apples, and you're gonna fork over the dough. And if you have somebody come in and say, hey, you're making some really good apples, how about you just give them all away? And then, you know, we'll have them give you stuff. And then you get jack shit in return. It's like, that's not doing anybody any favors. You should have just had those people who were interested in being part of that come to the person of their own free will, say, hey, I'll pay you for some of your seeds and we can work together, or we can work independently and we'll all sell apples individually. And that works fine for people.
Also, it kind of ties into like my like I have one of my favorite Facebook things that just floats around Facebook every once in a while. I'll see it pop up, and it's this picture of this person, and their background is a communist flag and everything. They're like, in their post, they're talking about how evil capitalism it is, and this person literally sits there and talks about, oh, we should, you know how we can escape capitalism and feed all the hungry people if we all grew a vegetable.
Oh yeah,
and then we shared the vegetables between ourselves.
Huh?
Like this person was like, oh, if everyone grows a vegetable and we share the vegetables between ourselves, trading vegetables to people so that we can get what we want, then we could escape. Then we could escape the evil right-wing system. And somebody commented on that. Don't tell these people that they just invented capitalism.
I'm just like, every time I hear something like that, it honestly, like, I knew where you were going with from the beginning, and I was just like, I wanted to see if it would play out how I thought it would, and it's just like every time, it doesn't have to be even that specific post. It could be literally anybody who wants to make an argument sort of like that, and it's like, dude, that's capitalism. That's the proper version of capitalism that we're aspiring toward. Like, we're on the same side. Like,
yeah.
Have you seen that that more recent video of Ben Shapiro talking to that college dude who was
no.
talking about? Oh, so Ben Shapiro was at this college. I can't remember which one it was, but he was talking to this student, and the student came up and he was saying like that he didn't agree with how Ben was talking about capitalism or whatever. And they were just arguing over semantics because the college student didn't understand the basic, definition of pure capitalism. And what he was describing, like, that was supposedly this like contentious version of capitalism that he didn't agree with, that Ben was promoting apparently in his eyes, was basically crony capitalism or some other version of economic distribution, somehow or another. But he was trying to go on this tirade about, Ben talking about this and talking about that. And it was so weird because he was just talking about the exact same shit. And I was just like, dude, Ben literally, he told him like 3 different times at least that he was saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They were just arguing literally over whose definition of what dictated what an economic system was. And it's just like, it's not up to you to decide what a word means. Socialism is socialism. Capitalism is capitalism. You look at socialist ideas and see if they can work with capitalism, and then you can overlay that, like in some Scandinavian countries, or even the healthcare system that we have in America right now. And it's just
which, by the way, is failing.
Yeah, and it's just like, either way, you can tell which one is socialism and which one is capitalism. It's not that damn hard. Like, it's not that hard if you just open your mind a little bit to listening to the actual argument of the other side instead of just going by what you feel is their main goal of what they're saying. And I'm just like, I'm just sitting there like, wow, this guy really has legitimately no grasp on reality of how economics work in today's day and age. Like that, it was crazy. It was so nuts. I was like, wow. I was just so. It was just so shell shocking because people want to make these arguments all the time, and they don't even realize that they're just going right back to pure capitalism, which is what everybody pretty much on the right that they're attacking for being, bad. These big bad capitalists, like that's what they want. Like you're saying the same thing. You're just on a different side, running by different ideology.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a real conversation. That's pretty much the whole argument. It's not about capitalism and socialism. It's about you not having an open mind, and learning how economics actually works.
And then I know we're going over here our time, but see, this is why we're a YouTube show and not radio. Would have already stopped us.
Yeah, we would have lost our sponsors. Everything would have gone to hell by now.
Yeah, 2 episodes in, we're already fucking up.
Demonetized. #apocalypse.
Oh God. But just because the topic of this is supposed to be the State of the Union, is there any actual do you have any comments about the State of the Union?
Trying to think.
Because there's the clap that Nancy Pelosi did that everyone is talking about how it's so empowering.
Everybody's saying it was from Baby Shark or something. I don't even
this condescending smile.
And then she was like, it was genuine. It wasn't like, shut up.
I mean, it's like,
I'm over it. I'm so over it. Like, I don't know. For me, I don't really have anything else to say. I think we talked about it. Cute Klutz outfits. I mean, gotta hand it to them. They got some nice designers. I think they might have brought Gucci in for that, or maybe Prada. I don't know. Maybe they had a collab.
All right then. On that note, we'll see you all next week with more hot topic issues.
This was the Fireplace.
This was the Fireplace. And I'm Trigger. We had Josh.
He bounced. He had some things to do, but this was